yeah.
You are a son of a bitch.
Un saluto a tutti.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the HAC. It is not a victory Monday, but it's not a defeat,
draw
all
Monday.
right? Everything remains a stalemate with the Snakes, all right? Juve draws level with Inter 1-1, all right? And as always, in typical Juventus match fashion, we have fans with split opinions on the game and their takes and everything, and obviously we're going to tackle it. And I mean, right on time is our friend Jeremiah here saying that, hey guys, we were playing for a draw in the end. We can do better. If only we stop limiting
100%.
ourselves by playing it safe. We really could have beaten Inter with a little more bravery. The funny thing is that the message is exactly the same on the opposite side. And if you look at what the Inter fans are saying, they are frustrated with their team as well for not getting after it. In the end, I think the second half kind of showed what was going on. But we're going to talk about it all. And, Scudetto contenders, is it real or not? Here you have Ryan coming in here saying, we don't know what it takes to compete for a Scudetto. Well, we're gonna tackle it all, okay?
That's a
okay.
good
You
question.
got Dells with the cowardly mentality in the second half. We're gonna tackle this game. There's that seems to be the general consensus and whatnot. But hey, we're gonna hash it all out right now. First off, Ant, my man, how are you doing?
Hey man, living the dream. It is almost the Christmas season, so starting to get ready for that. You know, you were at the Santa Claus parade yesterday, which, you know, freezing your ass off really means Christmas season is starting for you. We don't really do that kind of thing anymore. So, hey, had a good little after the game, had the Steelers game, had the Inter game. It was really stressful afternoon fantasy football. Very stressful afternoon for me yesterday. But, hey, 2 wins and a draw. I will take it.
There you go. There you go. Look, this one, as far as news breaking out for Juventus today, there's a couple little things, but nothing really major. We do have more rumors about Massimiliano Allegri at season's end, which we will tackle after we talk about the game itself. We've got, again, just more proof that it is, in fact, amici di nessuno. All right? They just can't stop making these shameful comments and remarks. But we'll get to it. Okay? First up, we have our lineup. So there was the surprise there that Hans Nicolucci Caviglia was going to be starting this game, all right? Outside of that, everything was kind of as we expected.
Was it a surprise, though?
Of McKennie, Caviglia, and Rabiot, okay?
Was it a surprise?
That Caviglia was? Yeah. I actually do believe so, because I thought Locatelli was going to be in the whole way through. I actually thought he would be able to play through and play the entire 90. So I was actually surprised.
Well, we had the three of us, me, you, and Lou, had this discussion. Actually, I think Lucci jumped in too. Cracked ribs or broken ribs or bruised ribs is no joke, right?
No.
So him coming back from that would have been a surprise for me. So I wasn't surprised as much as other people were that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
I mean, you can play through them. It depends really more so how much, because I guess it depends on where exactly and how, but how much of your breathing's actually affected. But yeah, you're gonna have to grit your teeth for sure. But
one of the injuries that I've never had, but I heard it sucks.
I think I'd be surprised, because I totally felt Allegri was gonna go Rabiot in the middle of the D with Miretti on one side, McKennie on the other. I wasn't confident he was going to go with Hans Nicolucci Caviglia. I had no problems with him going with Hans the whole way through if we had to. But he did. And then you have, of course, so again, full lineup: Szczesny, Gatti, Bremer, Rugani, Cambiaso, McKennie, Caviglia, Rabiot with Kostic, and then Vlahovic and Chiesa up top. A lot of talks about who he was going to partner Chiesa up top there. I said going into this one, for me, I give the slight edge to Vlahovic just because of the fact that when our offense is firing, it has been with those two guys. And they do actually look for one another. And with Keane and Chiesa, there's seemingly no actual connection between the two of them. Milik, for me, much better off the bench. But we'll talk about the substitutions in this one too in the second half, because
Oh,
I thought it
oh
was a
my.
little bit interesting too. But we'll
Hmm.
get to it all. Let's get to the highlights and talking points here. So we
Let's
got
do it.
Alex Juve saying Hans with the Flames there. Hans, I thought he put in a good showing, but we'll talk about it.
Hmm.
Because here you have Ryan S. Hans was below average. He should play in
Take it easy,
Kopitar.
Ryan.
Well, we'll talk about it all. We'll talk about it all. 15th minute though. My God, I think Chiesa has to at least hit the target on this one.
Hit
Long
something.
throw in from McKennie. And a little bit of a scramble there. I believe it was Rabiot that was able to find Chiesa at the top there, and he misses target. Even on an off foot, top of the area there, centrally, you got to hit target. You got to force
He's on the
Sommer to
penalty
make a save.
spot, Berto. I don't want to hear any shit about people saying, "Well, this and that." A player of his caliber, hit something.
Yeah.
Hit the goalie, hit the post, hit something. You cannot miss from there.
And the
Cannot.
other thing is too is like I talk about it and I said it on the watch along, like when you're playing, in these games, you don't know how many chances you're going to get, let
Limited.
alone opportunities like that
Hmm.
right in the center of the area
Hmm.
with the space to tee one up.
Wide ass
You
open.
gotta make the most of those. All right. So
Force a save or something.
something I talked about going into this game too was some of the disillusion that's created about our play and opportunities to score and everything. I said, guys, we have the most big chances missed in the league. We are third to Inter and Napoli on XG per game. We these guys now, well, Chiesa's at he was 5 big chances missed going into this game. Vlahovic was on 5
That's
big
six
chances
now.
missed solo, just on their own going into this game. We got to do better in those particular moments. Like, you've got to hit target from there. For Christ's sake, Çalhanoğlu almost hit target from 33 yards out against us, and we
Somewhere
can't do
around
it
there.
from the
Yep.
center of the area. It's got to be better.
Hmm.
Now, 20th minute. That's Çalhanoğlu's hit from long range, swerving away from goal. Looked like Tech was on it the whole way through there.
He had it.
26th minute. Long ball from Szczesny, and Dumfries can't settle it cleanly. Vlahovic jumps on this thing. He was fighting for every
Every
50-50 and loose
every
ball
inch.
like an absolute demon. Okay, I
Hmm.
loved it. Loved everything Vlahovic brought to that game. That is the Vlahovic we need, match in, match out, not just when we play in a Derby d'Italia. That was great from him. He jumps on this thing, wins it, quickly finds Chiesa, who is then in turn able to run at Darmian. And then he feels Barella coming over his right shoulder there, so he keeps it going straight. He cuts it in, and Vlahovic finds that soft spot as De Vrij and company, Cherby had backed off, all right, and he had the space at that top of the area there, and a lovely off-footed right foot slot into the far side post, just inside the post there. Beautiful finish. 1-0 Juventus. This was a great goal, okay? Great finish from Vlahovic, too.
Well, he won the ball. He then turned and found Chiesa through two Inter players. He had to split those guys. Then had the presence of mind. That's his job though. He was hauling ass. If anyone watches again, he's hauling ass to make it to that area, and then he stops right in the right area. Now everyone's like, strikers should score that, and they should. That's a tough finish, to make sure he redirects it. He had about a foot and a half window to put that in, or else Somner's stopping that.
Yeah,
Has to have
yeah.
pace. Has to have has to be in the right location. That's a hell of a finish.
It's almost
Off foot.
exactly similar to Rabiot's finish last season against Inter as
Yep,
well. It's almost
pretty
like
much.
almost the exact same finish. Now, we get up there, we're fired up. It's 1-0 Juventus. Perfect.
Hmm.
Get the place rocking even more. The atmosphere was electric for this one. Brilliant stuff there. But 32nd minute. This one is frustrating for me. On the live feed, watching it live, I will say I thought 100% that was arm
Hmm.
to the face of Chiesa watching it at full speed. When you see on replays that he didn't go anywhere near his face, he
The
hit his
reverse angle.
shoulder, and to be honest, even at full speed, it's aggressive from Darmian, but he's got position on Chiesa.
He was
And
there first. Yep.
Chiesa maybe should not have just poked the ball through there like that. Was he going to beat him to it or whatnot? All that is like in consideration. But on live view, it did look like a foul. On the replay, no, VAR's not. That's not clear and obvious error. He didn't clip him in the head or the face or anything like we had all thought on live view. It's not a penalty, or it's not a foul. L'Arbitro Nick just says the basic considerations here are: was Darmian's arm used in an excessive manner? Did Darmian establish his position in front of Chiesa? Did Chiesa have a chance of playing the ball after the heavy touch? You can make the argument that Darmian's arm in front of Chiesa unfairly blocked him. However, this can easily be argued the other way as well. Therefore, this is not VAR material. The referee's decision on the field in these cases should remain as is. We're nowhere close to a clear and obvious error. It's as simple as that.
And he was letting that go all day, right? I think there was later in the game, Bremer absolutely cleaned Barella out, and I don't think there was a call on that one. That was even more egregious to that. So, again, I think people need to see the reversed angle of that, and it's
It's not.
It's not. It's not a foul.
Chiesa getting beat to a spot. Yeah, a little over aggressive from Darmian, but not. It's really nothing. Like if it went the other way, I would have been like, okay, he either calls it or he doesn't. The thing with this ref, though, that I will say, when refs decide they're gonna let them play, it makes for a shit consistency of the game, and he was nowhere near consistent in this game, because then the fouls that you do end up calling are sometimes heavier than what you've lighter than what you've let go, because you've decided to let them play. And that's what I don't like about these refs. Either just call it by the book, okay, let the lighter stuff go if you want, but this guy, as far as consistency, it was junk. There was quite a few on Vlahovic specifically that are fouls, okay? Easy fouls to call. But again, he decided to let them play. However, in the other manner, he was calling some that were lighter than what Dusan wasn't getting. So it's a little frustrating. It's a frustrating watch. I don't really like it when they decide they're going to let him play, because Serie A officiating at its best is not top drawer. So for them to dictate we're going to let them play, they're not at a caliber, in my personal opinion, to let them play. They're just simply not good enough. They can't keep the game going as smooth as it should.
He didn't want to be part of the headline, and I don't think the referee is part of the headline, which is a bit of a change, because I think you said the pregame show, you had a prediction the pregame show that something with the ref or is going to be a bad call somewhere.
Controversy is not, like you're always going to find controversy in a Derby d'Italia. There will always be there. Even in this Chiesa play, it's there, and it's nothing there, but it's there.
And so for me, I'm sort of happy that the referee isn't an issue in this one in terms of the result. This result is all on the two teams, basically playing for a draw. But we'll get to all that. For me, the referee was a non-issue this game. You can argue some calls here, some calls there. He was consistently consistent or consistently inconsistent. Either way, for me, he was a non-issue.
Yeah. We got Hanin saying good goal, but how many times did Dusan try to flick the ball to the side, found no one, or gave it to an interplay? That happened a few times, but to be honest, the support was not hitting him quick enough. Definitely not in the middle of the pitch. He was trying to take some one-time hits to swing it out to the flanks and losing sight of some guys. Yeah, there was some errors in there. There were some errors from all our players. But overall, Dusan was, for me, he was one of the best out there in terms of what you want to see.
Of the 22.
Out of a guy playing solo, because Chiesa hugging the left side, which is, again, something we all want, where we want him and whatnot. But again, if you're going to do that, this is something I always say. You still have to support the striker, and that's got to be done out of the midfield. For us, though, we played a flat midfield. We played a flat midfield with Rabiot, Caviglia, and McKennie. What have I been saying? 2-man pivot, one more advanced midfielder. That's how you're going to get Chiesa far left and still have support for that striker. You're leaving him on an island. Yeah, there's going to be some mistakes there. It's going to happen. He's fighting against 3 Inter guys on like on average almost
On
every time
average, it
he's
was
trying to get
2.
that
Let's,
ball.
let's, let's be serious. He's fighting against the center back and the defensive midfielder every time he receives a ball.
Sometimes two. Sometimes it was Darmian in there as well as
There you
De
go.
Vrij and whatnot. So you
Hmm.
got to give and take there a little bit for again something else that we want. Now after this play with Chiesa, Sommer gets the ball, swings it out to Dumfries, quickly finds Barella. Rugani, you've got to hold, man. You've got to hold. You've got to recognize this, okay? He goes in like a screaming banshee over here, and he's gone. Barella with a quick flick beyond him. And then you've got Thuram against Bremer. Thuram's going to be giving up the speed, but this is where I respect Bremer for the belief in his ability to be able to take this guy and match with him 1v1. But the smart play is always just clip him down, do what you got to do, and shut it down so we can just regroup and slow it down
Hmm.
rather than let the play continue. So for me, even with Rugani's blunder there, the biggest one for me was probably on Bremer. I know everyone's going to
Interesting.
attack Gatti, but that's a tough spot too because
He's going
you
to
are
lose every
trying
time.
to read that ball, okay? But you do lose Lautaro. If he's strictly watching Lautaro, how does he know where to get himself in position to take that
Hmm.
cross away or take that ball as it comes in? In the end, it's a great movement from Lautaro and a nice finish from him. Okay, he's on fire this season. But for me, the biggest one, I probably gotta say Bremer's gotta just shut that thing down and give him a nudge, do whatever, run him off course, take a foul. If you take a yellow, you
Push him
take a
out.
yellow.
Push, like run him outside.
Yeah, just go right into him, lean right into him, and grab a
Hmm.
hold of that kit if you have to. Take a yellow. Like I feel like that's the Chiellini play on that one. But
Yeah.
do you agree with me, or do you think the biggest one is Gatti, the biggest one's Rugani?
Well, so I watched it probably 5 times afterwards. That's I'll just put it this way. That's Rugani's first major error in what 14 months. We can say that's the one that you can say, wow, that's he really messed up on. That's a big error on him. But there were still 2 other things that could have happened afterwards, like maybe 3. All the things you just mentioned for Bremer there. I never really thought about all those things, like the foul. A professional foul is that's probably the right call. Professional
Yeah.
foul, keep it outside the box, do what you can. A lot of people were dumping on Gatti on that one, and I'm like, okay, hang on a second. First of all, he's trying to cover a guy that's twice his speed, half his height. Once he lost him in his blind spot, and you put up a fantastic point. He's trying to watch the ball coming in and mark the striker, so he's got to pick one. So with his length, his best bet is to cut off the cross coming in, whichever way it was. Lautaro beat him to it. That's all it was, and that was a nasty finish.
In the
Like
end,
he,
in the end, if you watch it from the view behind Tech, we're talking inches here from Gatti
yeah.
blocking that thing. Like he's right there with him in the end, but Lautaro made a nice cut. We got to call it the way it is. But for me, you just got to shut that down the second Rugani commits,
Hmm.
and Bremer's got to just clip him and do whatever to take Thuram down. Up there, too, a free kick up there. I'll give that to them and
He's
take our
not the last
chances
man.
defending it.
You're not risking a red there,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
like
that's a good point.
in the end, this is probably what pissed me off most about the game. And while everyone's talking about second half, all this, it's the fact that the goal we did allow to them was easily avoidable in my personal opinion. That's what
Hmm.
frustrated me the most about this game, not anything else in our play, specific players or anything. It was the fact that we conceded in a way that we could have easily shut it down long before it got to that.
And
But
that was really their only chance. They had a head, I think, before their first goal. They had a free kick. DeMarco swung it in from the right
yeah,
side, and the glancing header. That one could have been.
Thuram got a header. It did end up going right to Tech.
But other
Lautaro had a
than
header
that,
from a bad angle. Tech was
yeah,
easily there too. Outside of that, it was a Chalanoglu hit from like 33, 35 yards out. So
that's it.
yeah, it was always going to be a tight game. We go into halftime 1-1. Second half, I was saying no adjustments here. Let's get
Keep
after
yep.
this. Keep doing what we're doing. Keep
Mm-hmm.
working off what we're doing, but we do have to be weary. The other thing is, I said Inzaghi and Allegri are very, very similar, like extremely similar. But the difference is that Inzaghi's got more quality at his disposal than
True.
we do at the moment, and that's just the truth. That's just facts.
Mm-hmm.
He's got more quality at his disposal at the moment, especially in the middle of the pitch. It was coming through. But 49th minute, this is probably the only highlight of the second half, to be honest. And it fell to Thuram, a great heel pass
Oh.
from Barella out on the
Mm-hmm.
side from dealing with Gatti. Mkhitaryan comes in, puts one at Thuram's feet. He's got space to hit this thing, but he
Mm-hmm.
flubs it, and it ends up in a one hopper right to Tech's hands. Fortunately for us, the rest of the second half, literally nothing, you guys. Like nothing both ways. Neither team got after it. Neither team was willing to make a mistake that would cause them to lose that game. Inzaghi,
100%.
Allegri, Juve, Inter, all the players did the same. We had sequences where things could have been a little bit different, but we made some changes, and I just still say for us, we're not going to get a big drastic change unless we get a little bit of help and a little bit of quality, okay? So Locatelli came in. Hans Nicolucci Caviglia subbed off. This was around the 61st minute.
61st. Yep.
You can immediately see, and I think people that
Night
give
and day.
Locatelli a lot of flack should have noticed immediately what he brings into the middle of the pitch.
That's
Like,
the. It took me about 30 seconds, and
yeah.
I even wrote a note here. Noticeable difference between Luca and Hans. Like it's
And it's not
night and
even a
day.
knock on Hans,
It
but
is
it's
not.
just I've been saying this forever that like people are like, what does he even bring? He is literally the glue in the middle of the pitch. And these
Mm-hmm.
Metsalas that want to bomb forward or anything, he gives them the freedom to do that. The problem is once these guys get advanced, like McKennie, bless his heart, and even Rabiot, they did a lot of work yesterday. A lot of work, especially McKennie trying to be almost that third forward in the press. But when it comes to the technical ability, holy shit. Even in the second half, McKennie was a nightmare technically. And this is what I'm saying in the middle of the pitch. When these are the guys getting the ball in advanced scenarios, there's just nothing doing. That's why I say McKennie for me is much more effective as your right wing back. If you
He
are going to
was. Yep.
talk about him in the middle of the pitch, even Rabiot, when they get advanced, we are lacking big time in terms of the creativity. It's not coming from them. So you're still left in a scenario where other guys are going to have to do something like Chiesa 1v1, but he's not 1v1 against Inter. He's like 1v3. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very, very difficult, but a noticeable difference with Locatelli. Hans, I thought, well. At the end of the game, holy Christ. Just if it wasn't bad enough to suffer through a second half like that,
Mm-hmm.
you got enter Juan Cuadrado to the booze.
70th minute. Yeah.
Enter Alex fucking Sandro. And my God, this guy can't even mark a washed Cuadrado. It's like Tweedledee and Tweedledum out there
Stop it.
on the right flank there. End the game. So put everyone out of their misery and just blow the whistle dead when that happens. It was a nightmare. And in the end, Sandro giving up a free kick in a good spot for them. And I'm like, if this ends up in the back of Juve's goal, I will personally go over
Stop
to
it.
Turin, bitch
Stop
slap
it.
Sandro, and say see you later. If that did happen, because it was a nightmare. Don't make that change. Kostic has more than enough energy to play through the 90 minutes. It's crazy to me. This
Well,
guy should not see the pitch in 2023 for Juventus, let alone 2024. Okay? And that's my closing thought as we wrap up the eyes. Ant?
the, in the 70th minute when DeMarco and Dumfries went off, that was Inzaghi looking over at Allegri saying, "I'm good with 1-1. You good with it?" And Allegri was like, "I'm good with it." That when they started making those changes, then the Milik and Keane change at the 80th minute, okay, I maybe we weren't going to break the 1-1, but for me, Vlahovic and Chiesa wanted it yesterday. They did. They're when they didn't have the ball, they were very vocal with their teammates. They wanted the ball, they wanted the action, they wanted it. Like they were interested in that game, and I haven't seen those two idiots interested in the game in a long, long time. And when they came off, it. I think it deflated the whole fan base to say, "Oh, here we go. There's a 1-1," and I put money on 1-1, and I won. I'm eating good today because I could see a 1-1 coming, but I don't know.
Man,
I just and switching back to Quadrado for a minute. I don't really get what the boos are for. Like we cut him loose. So
it's
like
it's it's always going to be that way. And I'll be quite
I don't
honest,
like
for
it.
me, yeah, you do kind of shit on your legacy or whatever there is with Juve when you go to that side. You do that. You tarnish that. It's never the same. It's the one club that literally tried to fucking go dirty and tried to what they did in '06 will just never be forgotten. Ever since then, it's been completely different. There were players, there were coaches that changed between those sides prior to 2006. After
Mhm.
2006, it's just a different element that added to it. And if you, again, he makes the decision ultimately of where he goes. And he knows damn well
Mhm.
what the repercussions are of going to that side. So it's just,
Mhm.
he made that call. It is what it is. The booze, yeah. You just don't go to that team if you do, in fact, care about where you stand in the Tifosi's eyes of Juventus. You just know that. And it is what it is. He laughed about it. He smirked about it. I don't really care. As soon as you leave Juve, you're done to me anyways. So have fun there
100%
with
agree.
them. We'll see you at the end of the season when we probably overtake you and take this 39th Scudetto. All right. So now, game ends. We are going to kind of talk
Mhm.
about everything in general here. So obviously ends in a draw. I said my frustration is more so the goal that we conceded was avoidable. In terms of the play overall, the technical ability has to be better in the middle of the pitch. The guys that are picking out and, you know, have to break these games open for us. Those line breaking. I don't know how many times I saw, and I'm going to put his name out here, Rabiot, on the ball. And Hans Nicolucci Cavilla is there. He's advancing even as regista, and he's doing what he's doing. He's presenting. He's like, yeah, 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 and his hands are almost shaking for Christ's sake because it's like, give him the ball. And Rabiot is like staring at him, just staring at him. He's like, doesn't have the fucking coglioni to just put the ball through this window. He doesn't trust his own passing to do that. It was a 5 foot pass through two Inter players. Okay.
Mhm.
He turned and went all the way back to friggin' Bremer. And I'm like, dude, just have some fucking nuts about you and make that pass. If you can't make that pass, okay, and this is going back to everything I'm saying about creating opportunities, ramping up more scoring chances. If he doesn't have the balls to try and split two players at 5 feet distance, all you're going to be left with is crossing. And from your midfielders, you need more. You need these kind of passes that are going to split players, open up avenues, open up lanes, open up spaces. McKennie, Rabiot, they don't have it. So I feel like more of this frustration is really going to be based on what the fans' expectations were going into it. When I see that midfield, I'm not expecting us to go lights out with Rabiot and McKennie there. That is a robust midfield. And I said, where's our creation coming from? I said that at the start of the game. My one thing with this lineup, we are going to be very dependent on Kostic, and we're going to be very dependent on Chiesa to just frickin' run wild.
Work some magic. Yeah.
Because Cambiasso is going to have his hands full with DiMarco on the other side. And in the end, Kostic and Dumfries kind of ruled one another out. So it's up to the midfield. And we were behind in that midfield all game.
Yeah, this really shows how much we lost when Pogba and Fajoli went out, right? People want to make their jokes. They want to say, this and that about Pogba and Fajoli. The fact of the matter is we have two gaping holes after they left, right? Creativity wise, they were arguably our most creative midfielders of the group, right? And that you don't just replace that with McKennie. Again, God bless him, but I think we all agree McKennie's sort of playing at a position. He is a winger, but he's doing yeoman's work in there, right? He's working hard, him and Rabiot as well. But again, to your point, where is that creativity coming from? And this is where someone earlier on said, what was Vlahovic doing? Well, when you don't have the service as a striker, you look at all these other teams, they have service. Their number nines have service. Ours gets it from Chiesa, essentially, or Tech. That's it. He's getting the long balls, but he has to control and distribute, or the way he finished off the goal from Chiesa giving it to him. I was steadfast a month ago that I don't see us making a splash in January. I'm like, not happening. Can't happen. After yesterday, we need something. We need some sort of playmaker to come in, we need something because
you have to. You absolutely have to.
Now, with that draw, I will say top four is locked up. Can we say that? Top four is pretty much locked up. I think we're 10 points up on fifth.
I never had a fear of us not getting top four this whole season.
Agreed. Now, if you want to make that step to go after the Scudetto, you need that. You need somebody to service the strikers up top. This is a team that will, I have the stats up here that we went 9 games. When we went up first this year in 9 games, we had 9 wins. So that's our first drop points when we go up 1-0. So, a lot of clean sheets. We have 8 clean sheets. That's great. But that next step to pass into the Scudetto, we're missing 1 or 2 key players in the midfield. We have the strikers. If they stay healthy, we have the strike. We have 2 good keepers. We're good at the back. But again, to your point, there is just that little bit of spice missing in the midfield.
Yeah, they just can't break the line. They don't have the confidence in the through balls, the passing. It's very, very safe in the middle of the pitch. You need somebody with a little bit of flair and a little bit of balls about their abilities to get the passing going. Locatelli came in.
Numbers.
Locatelli came in and he hit Gatti in the area there, and Gatti's a friggin' CB, and he's like, god damn, like bumbling around in there. I'm like, man, if anything comes out of this, that'd be fantastic. But it's like, that's what we're coming to. McKennie could not settle the ball to save his life in the second half. But again, I think that's just where the fatigue sets in because of how hard he was working the entire game. So I'm not really going to knock him a lot. I'm just saying, in general, something I've been saying for 2 weeks now, we want more. We all want more in terms of play, but that's great. I could want to go build a house tomorrow, but if I don't have the hardware, I don't have the wood, I don't have the tools, it ain't going to happen. We are lacking a distinct profile in the middle of the pitch. We need help. We need help come January.
Well, just look at the numbers. So overall possession was 35-65 Juve Inter, right? Second half 36-34. We had 0 shots on target in the second half.
Yeah.
0. Well, they only had 4 total, but whatever. But here's the one right here that helps you out. Total passes. Inter had 750 with a 91% hit rate. Juventus total passes 390. Yeah. Right? A little over half of what Inter's doing. So that, a lot of people want to point to Hans. It's like, listen, this kid got thrown into the fire. I know he's 23, pretty much the same age as Vlahovic, but he's been with Juventus a long time. I thought he did fine, but that's just not good enough.
Let's get to performances.
Okay.
Man of the match. First off, Everybody in the chat, drop your
Hit us
man of
with
the
it.
match here right now. Anthony, who's your man of the match in this game?
I think it's pretty clear for the way he was playing yesterday and the way he was playing on the ball, off the ball, the service he was getting, the way he was talking to his teammates, and with that finish, for me, I haven't been clear on a man of the match in a while, and for me, Dusan was the man of the match. Pretty clear. He was heads and shoulders above anybody else on the field.
Yeah, for me it was clear. Vlahovic. I actually had McKenny as an honorable mention.
Fair enough.
Busted his ass and everything, but I had Vlahovic too. I think if we have this Vlahovic consistently and whatnot, I think it bodes well for Juventus. We need to feed off of Vlahovic and Chiesa, but they need the support. They need it desperately out of the middle of the park. If we continue to run three flat midfielders, Vlahovic will be on a friggin' island because Chiesa loves to drift to the left, and I wouldn't hinder that either. He's strong coming off the left and makes things happen. You have to, you have to kind of risk it and get that advancing midfielder up there with him. Does Hans Nicolucci Cavilla, because let's talk about his performance. Some were just not saying there was anything there, giving him a hard time, like you were saying. I actually thought he did absolutely fine. He did absolutely fine. And he got out of certain scenarios that the guys that have been playing consistently throughout this year can only dream of getting out of. He's actually okay. He was fine. Absolutely fine. He said in the interview after, he can play a two-man pivot. I'm not opposed to a two-man pivot with Locatelli and Caviglia. I'm not opposed to a two-man pivot with Rabiot and Locatelli. But I believe maybe, just maybe, you could try what everybody wants to with Locatelli as a mezzala with Hans Nicolucci Caviglia around. Next up, you have Monza. Why not give it a go? If Locatelli's fit and he wants to play, why not repeat Hans ahead of the defense and see if Locatelli can help us by being a little more advanced? Is that something everyone in the live chat would be willing to try and look at? And everyone knows I don't have this belief that it's going to be game breaking for us, but I think at this point we can all agree we need help further up the pitch from the midfield. Does Hans give you a little bit? Do you think that opens up a little bit of freedom for Max to maybe try this?
So we have Monza next, which is Friday, right? They're a bit of a tricky opponent. Well, in our past, they've been, especially last year, they were a tricky opponent, right? I believe that game is away. If you wanted to try something before, which the Napoli match, which I think is the one after that, like you can't look past Monza, you can't. But there was a big glaring light on how much help Vlahovic needs, and that because he was on it, and you're like, how the wheels should start turning in your head. How do we get this guy more service? Having a midfielder, right near him in his area, providing service, even taking away that defensive midfielder so he can have more one-on-ones, which really is his game. His game at Fiorentina was collecting the ball, running at defenders. That was his game. This whole back to goal distributing, he's just developing that. So again, that's something else you kind of got to, be a little bit patient with. If there was ever a time to try it, Monza would be the time to try it.
Yeah.
Now, it should be noted that Hans only had 25 touches yesterday. Locatelli had 24, and he came in the 60th minute.
Yeah.
So, did we get the full? Did we see everything Hans could provide? Probably not, because he wasn't getting the ball either. He was getting bypassed.
If you watch what Inter did early on, and that was they had to get away from it. They had to get away from it because we were finding lanes and whatnot, but they had Lautaro and Thuram literally pinned around Caviglia. So Bremer, they wanted Bremer, Gatti, and Rugani to be on the ball. The funny thing was, we did the exact same thing to them with Çalhanoğlu. in the start of the game, and he had to drop back between his center backs and Sommer to get the ball. And that was like literally watching the exact same team like strategy from both sides. But I think a lot of it came down to the guys trying to ease Cavili on and not playing in the ball in moments that they should be. Somebody mentioned it earlier in the live chat with the trust thing. I'm not going to go a whole lot into that. And the other reason I'm not going to go a whole lot into his touches is because if anybody noticed, there was some great interchanges in movement between he and Cambiaso, where Caviglia recognized he was being marked out. He moved forward. Cambiaso came around to protect, and we tried it twice. We tried getting the ball forward twice. We're not hitting it. Again, technical ability, distribution from the back. I don't want the ball at the feet of Gatti, Bremer, and Rugani trying to pick out these freaking balls. Bremer tried a few switch fields. I don't think I want to see that happen too often.
No.
It's just, again, it's not for lack of action or effort from Hans, but I think you come to this moment where you're Juventus, and for a tricky month of December in fixtures, you got to ask yourself, where are we going to need the help more? Because I agree with everybody in terms of Locatelli. I prefer him more at the heart of the midfield. Okay, That's where I prefer him. But how much longer can we go on with that huge, huge lack of attacking prowess out of the middle of the pitch? Miretti's just not cutting it for me. Miretti's just not cutting it. I mean, he does a lot of good, but I think it may be a little telling that he doesn't get minutes in a game like yesterday.
Was he still coming off an injury, though?
He had a lower back thing. That wasn't a big deal. He almost got pulled out of the Cagliari lineup, but he's fine. If Locatelli's playing with a fractured rib,
Yeah, Miretti can play with some sciatica. Yeah,
I think it's a little telling. I think it's a little telling.
That was our first goal from a striker since Milik scored against Torino. That was 5 games ago. We went 3 straight games with before the 2-1 win. Who was that? That was Gatti and Rugani who scored in that game, right? So 2 defenders, 3 midfielders scoring. Dusan's first goal since the Lazio win.
Yeah.
Right? I know he was injured in there. It just can't happen. We just need more out of the midfield.
You have to try something. Okay, you have to try something, I think, to get over this hump and try to find some help in advanced areas out of the middle of the pitch. I am rooting for Miretti, okay? But as it stands right now, his main attribute is finding pockets of space, but what happens afterwards is pretty underwhelming overall. I'd say about 70% of the time. And I don't think that's harsh. I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
And I think it's pretty fair that there, bar a couple players, there's no one in that starting lineup yesterday that we would have said, don't want this guy in the starting lineup. I think based on who's available, we're fine with the starting lineup. It's just now we just need that little upgrade.
Yeah, I think it's
fine. It's fine for a top 4, but if you want to make that jump, I'm not even talking about European play. Like, don't even get me started on that. But for the Scudetto run, if you want to challenge Inter in their depth, they got to make a move in January.
Yeah. Now, again, you've got mixed feelings in the live chat here saying, I don't want to sacrifice Miretti for Hans. You're not sacrificing anyone. It's all about what you have to gain. So if you're looking at it as you're sacrificing Miretti for Hans Caviglia, you're actually sacrificing Miretti for Locatelli if he would in fact be the one that's supposed to get advanced, like the majority of the fan base has been asking for a while, and I just haven't been down with it because of Miretti. But Miretti, because of Miretti, Fagioli, Pogba, well, two out of those three are gone. And it's been down to Miretti. It hasn't been happening. Yildiz, I think, should have got some minutes yesterday. I would have been interested in, because for me, yesterday, when you sub Chiesa and Vlahovic, there's no way I'm taking Vlahovic out of that game yesterday. Just what he was doing, the way he was
No
fighting,
chance.
giving them fits at the back.
Yep.
He should have stayed 100%. Chiesa in the second half, no fault of his own, but not really getting involved as much. I would have used Yildiz not as a second striker, but almost like another midfielder, making a diamond with Locatelli, McKennie on one side, Rabiot on the other, and Yildiz as that advanced player. And I would have tried to work off that. Yildiz might be the alternative to Miretti. So maybe we keep Locatelli in his main spot, but try Yildiz in a different role and a little bit advanced. That's something I'd be willing to try.
And it did come out this morning from a friend of the show, Mirko Di Natale, that he mentioned Yildiz and Houston. You know, there were some reports or people talking this and that about them going out in January. He said these two are not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere to get minutes. They're not going. They are staying with this first team. They're not leaving Juventus for any reason. So
yeah, it's there's some options there. We got to get over this. It's not like us, but as a club, we have to get over this maybe fear of young guys and what could go wrong, whatever. And we got to get after it. And I think Yildiz should probably be looked at a little bit of help as an advanced midfielder to help the attack. I think we have to try something right now to make up for the lack of technical ability. He's got a ton of technical ability. And you have to look for some answers, I think, there until you can maybe bring some cavalry in January. I think you got to do something. We're gonna.
Hopefully, am I freezing up on you there or no?
Yeah, you're freezing up a little bit. It's okay though. I still hear you and stuff.
Oh, son of a bitch. Okay. It has to be said that it's not like we haven't played young guys this year. Like a majority of our team is young. Like Vlahovic is young. Locatelli's not old. Way is a young player. Houston's gotten some minutes, which is a surprise. So if everyone just says, "Oh, Allegri's not playing the young guys," let's just pump the brakes. Let's pump the brakes. Young guys are getting there, but Monza this Friday, I can see Yildiz getting some minutes. But does he get minutes over Keane and Milik as a sub?
I think
there's a pecking order.
I'm not horribly upset with what we're getting out of the striker role. I gotta say this, like out of the forwards role. And while everybody talks about chances, all this and whatnot, for me, it is literally the middle of the pitch that is the concern for me, because I don't think there's enough help and support coming from there. So for me, we need answers to the questions in the middle of the pitch. But the frustrations in performance, like I said, I think ultimately it comes down to the expectations you had going into that game, which is fair from everyone. But for me, that game was exactly what I expected. A tight, what did I say even in my prediction? I said I'm torn between a 1-1 or a 1-0. I don't think there's going to be more than 2 goals in this game. I said it's going to be tight. It's going to be tight the whole way through. And I said Inzaghi and Allegri are similar. Do not be surprised if they end up mirroring one another and they just cancel each other out because they think the exact same way. And it comes down to what happens on the pitch. Tactics, all that shit goes out the window.
Just look at the chances. Look at the chances. We put our
8 for them. 8 for them. I think 4 for us or something like.
I thought they only had 4 shots on goal.
They had 4 on target the entire game.
8 total. 8 total.
Yeah,
that's right.
8 total attempts.
Each team had a tough shot. Both put it in. Each team had a sitter and missed the net. So,
yeah, 4 for
Ended how it
Juventus,
should have.
8 total attempts for Inter. It was tight. That was the way I was expecting this thing to go. Now, through this, you have some headlines that are out there that say
Hmm.
Juve has now proven because of this game that they can contend for the Scudetto. A majority of the fan base, I would say, still doesn't believe so, okay, because of this game. You have Massimiliano Allegri. His words always are under a microscope after every match. He says, it was important more than winning not to lose this match on a psychological level because it gives you a different awareness. And maybe it would have hurt us. It's a journey and we have to grow slowly. I've seen this set of words clipped differently in 2 different variations, okay? And both
Hmm.
of those variations um, gave the impression that he said it would have hurt us if we won more than not losing and whatnot, which is obviously not the message, okay? It's
Mm-mm.
not the message at all. It's saying that essentially, obviously, if you won, it would have been massive, but the draw is significant as well because not losing this game might have had a negative impact down the road. The other thing is, too, now you've played literally the best team. We've thought we've had tests across the way
Hmm.
based on their form and what those other teams have done. Those games leading up to this one were not tests. They weren't tests at all. This
This was
was the
it.
first test. We were right there with them. But I think it's unfair to say that we didn't surrender a ton in terms of quality. Yet we were right there. And sequences, there were certain sequences in this game where we needed that execution. You needed that touch, you needed that hit, you needed that belief and that breaking pass and whatnot. We do not have it. Okay? We don't
Hmm.
have it. But despite all that, I still think you have to take the faith in this team that we are tough to crack, okay? And
Hmm.
domestically we can play with absolutely any team in this league. There is very much still belief in from me anyways that we go on and bring home the 39th. I will stand by that. If you bring me the exact guy we need in the midfield, potentially 2, okay? An attacking midfielder, maybe like a Sudakov, who's very affordable. Maybe you have to sell Illing Jr. to do it. But if you bring me like a Sudakov and you bring a
Where is that guy?
Samardzic, you bring in a Samardzic,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, but that makes a huge, huge difference. And that ramps my belief up even bigger, okay?
Okay. My preseason prediction was a Scudetto, so I'm still sticking to that. Now, I got a question for you, and I want an honest answer, big guy. All right, I don't want you dancing around it.
Storm
Did
the Barn
we?
questions too for everybody else. Get the likes up on the video, but fire away your Storm the Barn questions.
Yeah,
Go
we
ahead,
got
Ant.
about 15 minutes top, so get those questions in now. Now, here's one for you to start the storm the barn. And you can. I'd like to see how you answer this. Did we play up to Inter's level? Did Inter play down to our level? Or are we 2 teams that are at the same level? We just kind of balance each other out.
I've said this going into this game that despite all the hype around them, despite the fact Lautaro's got all these goals, despite all this, I'm unconvinced by any team in Serie A.
Hmm.
There will be drop
Okay.
points by everyone that's in the top 4 currently. I actually think Milan may drop out of the top 4 come season's end,
Hmm.
but we'll see what happens there. But I'm not convinced that they're this big thing that everyone is trying to make them out to be. I'm not convinced by it. I think
Okay.
with us, I've always had this belief that, we're more so our own worst enemy than what anybody else can really do to Juventus. Juventus has been in this transitional phase for several years now and not being able to figure themselves out, not being able to find some type of identity. Now we have an identity, but nobody likes it. And that's the reality. Our identity is the fact that we are tough to crack. and that's what we're trying to become. We are trying to build off of that. But for me, again, and I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, I'm sorry to say this, but this is my honest to God opinion. We didn't play down, like we didn't play up to them. They didn't play down to us. You have two teams that are very, very similar. The difference is the quality on the pitch, okay? Especially in the middle. And I was against this. I vividly remember a discussion with our friend Omer here on this show talking about midfields around the league, and I said our midfield is as good as anybody's in there, but you know what? It's just not true, and I was wrong. And Omer was right. Okay? Because I said, oh, Mkhitaryan this, whatever. No. The difference in technical ability, the difference in being able to break passes, having the confidence to do that, the movement, the interchange amongst one another, 700 some passes in a game to 300, it's all there for us to see. And we need help in the middle of the pitch. So I think it's just two similar teams. I don't think they played down. I don't think we played up. I think it's just the game was a deadlock because similar approaches and style. The thing is, they finish more. Well, their midfield can set up those guys up top very, very nicely. Very, very nicely. So the other thing is, up front for them and why they do so well in the league is because their target guy and Lautaro both like to occupy the same areas. If you're looking at us, Chiesa loves to drift. Vlahovic, everyone else stays in the heart. They can't figure it out. They can't figure it out there. So it's a tough one. But what do you think? Do you think we played up to them? Do you think they played down to us, Ann?
Well, the hype all year has been like Inter's this better team. We gotta catch Inter. Looking at that game yesterday, it was, I guess you can say, our good defense against their good offense, and then our stagnating strikers against their okay defense, right? And then it came again, just to your point, came down to the middle of the field and it just canceled each other out. That was just two teams canceling each other out, whether it was through tactics, whether it was through available players. It's the two best teams in the league, right? Going at it. And Juventus is only being coming into my mouth as one of the best teams in the league because of how we lock stuff down at the back. We gave up one shot on net and it went in the back of the net. If Gatti blocked that ball, that's a 1-0 finish. It
Yeah.
is. Allegri's going to make his changes. He's going to park the bus. We're all going to complain. But guess what? We're now 1 point up on Inter after gaining all 3 points. So, I you know me, I don't sit around on weekends and watch other Serie A teams play. I just don't have the time for that. But based on what I saw yesterday, that was the two top teams canceling each other out. Other teams are going to drop off. Great point about Milan. With all their injuries, it's going to be tough for them to stay in the top four.
It's just nobody's really standing out to me like this is clear cut. I said it in the summer before the season was even going to play out. It's going to go down to the wire. Maybe we get another Cinque Maggio moment. Who knows? Okay, we'll see what happens. But it's far from over. Like it's Jeff with an X here saying our chances of winning is not over. It's far from over. This is fine. We're 2 points behind. We can keep on their heels. Guys, they're still in European play, okay? And I understand the frustration that we felt this is the one that we could have gone after. We could have got this win yesterday and whatnot. I get that. I really, really do. But
they have Napoli next week.
How much are you willing to get after that if we left ourselves open and they hit us, do you have the confidence that we come back to get a goal, or do you like to keep it tight and try to find one? This is what I'm getting at. This is what I've been getting at for a while. It's kind of our best strategy right now because, to be honest, do you think Juventus can get in a shootout with a team right now? No. We can't.
If you're asking me, the answer is absolutely not.
No, we
No.
are so as much belief as we have in the offense, as much as you want to get after, you want to go, we can't get into shootouts with teams because these guys are not clinical enough. They're not
I
clinical
have
enough that even when they get the opportunities in good moments that they can at least force a stop or whatever, like it's not there. They're not killers. I don't want to get in a shootout with any team. I want to keep things tight. I want to make sure that we are hard to break, and I want to go from there. For me, what's in between? What's the in between? Your attack, your rock solid defense, the middle of the pitch. That transition, that next step, that next level is how we operate in the middle. We need help, and you can't deny that. Even Fagioli would help us, but Pogba, oh my god, be insane. So we have to deal with it. They have to address this in January. Now there was some good moments coming out of the meeting John Grohl was at earlier this week with the guys in Turin, and Calvo attended it. He was not supposed to be there, and his words about, hey, the cleanup ends this year. Amazing. Finally, let's start cooking. Get Juntali cooking, get him going, and I believe Juntali can build us a solid team. I fail to believe that he and all the other members are blind to where we need help. Okay? But we may need to sacrifice in order to get the money going, but there's going to be a big shift because we probably will sell, have a minority owner. We need a new sponsor on the kits. It's all going to tie together. It's all going to be new resources. We are going to be back in Champions League next season. That's more Chicoria, as you like to say, right? It's all going to change. Rumors about Allegri continue to swirl. Obviously, today you have, well, it was actually yesterday, right? And it was the, is it the president of Corriere dello Sport, I believe? I think he's the president of it. I'm not sure if he's the president or not. Director of Corriere dello Sport. But he says Allegri intends to leave at the end of the season. The conditions to stay aren't present. He belongs to a Juventus that no longer exists. If I were to wager a significant amount, I'd wager on his departure. He continues, there are no doubts that this will be Allegri's final season on the bench. He doesn't feel an integral part of the club, which has changed greatly in the last year, particularly with the management. He will meet to terminate his contract mutually. This is something that's been speculated for quite some time, all right? And I wouldn't be surprised. I was hearing that this last summer, and everybody was laughing at me and saying, oh, your source this, your source that. And I'm like, he's telling me it's between Conte and Spalletti. He told me a week before Spalletti took the Italy job that he was going to take the Italy job. It is what it is. Conte's been lingering around. His wife's got a boutique they opened up there. They're in Turin permanently now. He wants to be close to his family. He's reconnected with Juve. Calvo's there and Giuntoli are there. They're very close with
there
Conte
was a
as well.
vote. There
It's all
was a
there.
vote
Oh,
for
yeah.
Allegri to,
It was a
and
vote. 3-2.
and 3-2
3-2.
was the vote.
And Allegri voted to stay. So, and it was all because of,
Yeah.
all because of that. All because of that. And that is according to several sources, top
It
sources as
just,
well.
if you just look at it from the outside, like even some of us over here in North America, when you bring in any sport, when you bring in a new general manager, we brought in Giuntoli. Giuntoli is going to want his guy as the manager. Any general manager is going to want a clean house. It didn't make sense for a couple of reasons to get rid of Allegri. One was mainly the money. Two, you're in this state of flux, and you want to keep things as stable as possible. You're cutting back on salary, you're cutting players, so you want to keep some sort of stability in the change room. Keeping Allegri was the right move. Now, as much as we had an issue with it, it turns out it was the right move, and Allegri is doing a good job this year. Has to be said, right? However, I do not see him being here. I've said this the whole time. Great job, Allegri. Great job last year. Great job so far this year. Just, I do not see him here as the manager next season, especially when you have players not fulfilling their potential, and you want to bring in new players. You want to develop potentially a new system? Is Allegri the guy for that? Simple one to look at. Sule. How does Sule next season fit into this team? How do
Yeah.
you keep that kid firing? Is Allegri the guy for that? I think the short answer is no. Right.
In a
So
3-5-2, the only way he could do it is as a second forward, which may not really fit the bill, but maybe we'll see what happens. But it's going to
we'll
be
see. We'll see.
an extremely interesting summer. But right
one Hundred
now,
percent.
Max is the guy, and I gotta say,
Mm-hmm.
when I look at a coach, my one thing that I go into game in, game out is, did he put his team in a position to win? And I think the vast majority, and even our record shows it, yes, we have been in positions to win these games.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, though, these guys aren't the ones pulling the strings. They're not the one making those passes. They're not the ones making the same fundamental and basic errors that I see game in, game out. That has to be a quality issue. There's nothing else around it. These guys need to man up and be better. Dusan Vlahovic, the way he played, the demeanor yesterday, there's nothing stopping him from doing that in every appearance that he plays in.
That
It's
is
a
correct.
player thing. Let's get after it. Let's go. We got to stop
Mm-hmm.
kind of making excuses. But as far as the play style and everything like that, again, are we confident with these guys to get into a shootout? I'm not quite there. I'm not quite there, but we'll see what happens. Let's get to some Storm in the Barn questions. We're going to try and
Do
wrap
it.
things up here. Why do we press so well at the start of the game, and then at the end, they look like a bunch of rookies by the 90th minute? I think our press is a little awkward. It always has been. Even with Miretti, McKennie, you could see them try to make up that third forward almost when you're trying to do it out of a 3-5-2. It opens up a pocket behind you that behind McKennie, Gatti, and Cambiaso had to be very well aware of. And for me, yesterday, we weren't pressing the forwards and pressing those guys as much as I would have liked. So it's the press is a little awkward out of our 3-5-2 if the back line is still trying to stay back. They can't do that. Everyone's got to press to support it. And that's what I see is there's basically breaks in that chain. You know what I'm saying? So, Anth, what do you think?
Yesterday was two managers playing a chess match. Press at certain times, defend at certain times, attack, defend. That was, if you ever want to have a textbook match and what a chess match is in Serie A, that's what it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Each manager tried to technically cancel out other components of their opponent, and it was just both teams just cancel each other out. That's what it was. Yesterday, you can't take really anything from it other than, you can look at individual players, some mistakes here and there, but at the end of the day, as a whole, both teams just they want to get a draw. And you want to know something? For Inter, that's a bigger draw for Inter than it is for Juventus. Away from home, taking a point in their
Yeah.
barn, that's all you want. So if you want to give it a win, that's more of a win for Inter than it is for Juventus.
So, and again, everybody, like far from over. We've got Monza. We've got to get the job done against them, okay? We play them away from home. It was a nasty fixture for us last season, okay? Got to get it going.
Di Maria got the red card, right?
But Inter's next game is against Napoli, who
At home, I think. Yeah.
who had a strong game against in Mazzari's first one. They got the victory, but they still look to be firing offensively. He might be getting after it offensively with them. Nobody knew. It was a wild card what Mazzari's going to do. He's 63 years old. We're thankful he just showed up with pants on, but like, who knows, right? So you don't know what Napoli's going to do. They're going to be at home at the Maradona to Inter, and that is a big one this week. So we absolutely have to take the 3 points from Monza, but that game could also shift things dramatically as well. So again, the draw is good overall, everybody, okay? Obviously, it's not the 3 points we wanted, but it's good. It's good. Why do we keep playing on the flanks instead of going through? Listen,
I
this
think
is
you
something.
sort of answered this one.
Yeah, we're talking about quality here in the middle. And what did I say the blueprint is? I've always said this, and I said, if you were smart and you were going to play Juventus, you would make that 5-man wall at the back. You would make that 5-man wall and you would force them through the middle. Why? Because McKennie's not going to break you down, because Miretti hasn't been able to break teams down. Rabiot will not break teams down, technically. And Locatelli's at the heart, just the top of the defense there, and it ain't gonna happen. The only way we break these teams down is not through what we do on a quality basis. It's from sending the house and getting greasy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the blueprint to make life rough for Juventus. And we're not going to send the numbers in just any game. We'll do it
Mm-hmm.
when it's Verona, Cagliari, like we saw.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we'll also be patient and wait towards the end before we do that. It is what it is, guys. I'm going to die on this hill. It's the midfield. We need help.
Allegri was leaving 4 guys behind the ball at all times yesterday.
Yeah.
Times 5. He was not giving up anything defensively.
No. Who are the untouchables for you in Juventus right now coming in from Georgia Boklos? Bremer is an
Well,
untouchable.
let's start at the back. Bremer,
Bremer's untouchable for me.
Locatelli.
I think Locatelli should be an untouchable.
I would say all the young guys, just kind of group them all together. I don't think like Yildiz, Houston, put them. They're not going anywhere. Vlahovic and Chiesa.
Vlahovic is untouchable for you.
Yes.
If we get... I'm not convinced that...
I'll only get rid of Vlahovic if we bring Morata back.
Stop that. I'm not convinced that if we saw 70 to 80 million that I might not be inclined to take that and work around with the club a little more. I'm not so inclined to throw him in the untouchable list. It could change. I was very impressed with the Vlahovic. I know that there was mistakes and everybody's highlighted them, of course. There is going to be mistakes through performances. But if I saw that Vlahovic all the time, I'd start to be like, yeah, I think he's an untouchable. But right now, for the most part, I feel like he hasn't been worth the dollar that he's getting. So I'm not going to throw him on that list. I think for me, it's Bremer, Locatelli, Chiesa. If I'm going to go with the youngsters and throw them in there, I think Yildiz for me needs to stick around. I'm not going to throw Illing Jr. on an untouchable list, but yeah, Miretti needs a loan. Fagioli,
Would
we
you
have
sell
no choice.
Fagioli?
We have to bank with Fagioli now. We have to bank on him.
Mm-hmm.
We have to bank on him. We have to. We just extended him. I mean, who's going to be buying this guy with this betting thing and whatnot? Like, we got to bank on him. And I have faith he'll turn good.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty low for untouchables, man. Like, I'm not... Yeah, like, Rabiot, I don't even really think I'd be renewing. His renewals come up for... The rumors are that Juve is pushing for 1 to 2 years. How do you feel about that, Ant? How does the live chat feel about that?
Well,
1 to 2 years on Rabiot.
He was the crazy horse last year. I don't know what the numbers are. What is 10 goal contributions, or probably more than that with the assists last year. He hasn't lived up to last year's standards. I don't think he's been terrible this year. I don't think he's been I don't think he's been as effective in terms of helping us achieve our goals. He's just sort of there.
Yeah.
Right? He's not helping us, he's not hurting us. He's always healthy, he's always available. Your best ability is your availability. That's the only thing I can say about him this year. Not terrible, just he's just sort of there.
I feel like we would forget about Rabiot if we had a technical demon in there, and
Agreed.
Like when he stepped out of the midfield and had that suspension, everybody's like, oh man, we're going to feel this. No, I said no. I said the only guy you're going to feel it when he's out in the midfield is Manuel Locatelli. And Locatelli kind of proved that. Rabiot didn't really prove that. So for me, I would be waiting to see what our alternatives are before tying down any contract extension, okay? Not a knock on Rabiot because he had a great season last season, but still this year it's been a little less. So for me, it's like still only one good year out of like going on his 5th now, right? With the 1-year extension. That's just That ain't it, and it shouldn't be it at Juventus. So yeah,
Hmm.
no, that's a no from me. Antonio's untouchables are Bremer, Loca, Cambiaso, Yildiz, Chiesa, Gatti. Yeah,
Mm,
you know what? And even to throw Gatti on a untouchable thing, I mean, it depends on alternative. And I love Gatti. I really, really do. But untouchable for me is like any offer that's coming in is like no, a flat out no. And right now I'm kind of like,
yep.
yeah, very, very low on that list, which is blowing me away about the Chiesa contract extension. That they only want to do 1 year because for me, he's one of our few world class players. Like,
Hmm.
it's very, very strange to me that they only want to do the 1 year while they're renewing other guys to 2028. For me, he's got to
When's
be
his up?
locked.
2025.
2025, yeah, and they only want to go to 2026, and I'm like, just take it to 2028. The guy's Chiesa's great, and he's one of our few world class players. It does not make sense to me. Even if you have to
Maybe the
give a
player
little
only
more
wants
money,
one
he's
year.
not on anything crazy by any means right now. I don't know. I don't know. But everybody, as far as Juve goes in this game, we could be frustrated because we didn't get the 3 points. Um, you know, but I think we really have to look at the overall big picture. And if you want to get into shootouts with teams, I don't know. And that goal that we conceded yesterday might kind of shine a light on maybe it wouldn't be the best approach. I think what we're doing is
Hmm.
right. Keeping hard to crack. We got Monza on deck, okay? And let's see what the Merdazzurri can do against Napoli at the Maradona. Maybe that one swings in our favor, all right?
Yep, that'd be
Let's
big.
see what happens. There's a lot of football left. I said this win, lose, draw. Nothing was being decided yesterday, everybody. It was going to be a big boost potentially and everything like that. But it's not to say that us staying focused and maybe not getting our heads up there isn't necessarily a bad thing moving forward. All right. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. But there's a ton of football
A
left.
lot of football left.
These teams are going to get stretched. Right now, I'm almost a little more concerned about Monza than I was Inter. Because I thought I
Hmm.
had faith in the guys putting up a good showing, playing hard, and trying to get after it. It's always going to be execution, boys. Always going to be execution. Monza, though, we have to make right what went so horribly wrong yesterday. We are going to be away from home. That game is going to be December 1st. So we're going to kick off December with Monza, and it's got to be a victory, all right? Thank you, everybody on the live chat. You guys are amazing. You guys know the drill. I'll keep you up to date with daily update videos on the news. We will be back for a match day live, and I'll bring you a watch along for that game. Now, December 1st, I believe that is actually this Friday.
It's a Friday.
So, um, yeah, sick day coming up. I'll bring you a watch along, okay, everybody? Enjoy your weeks, all right? I hope nothing for the best for you guys. The holiday seasons are around the corner. All right. This is a time of year as the holidays get closer where not everybody is so jolly and maybe some times are tough. Just want to let you guys all know that our DMs are always open. And we always say, you're going through any hard times, and it doesn't have to be around the holidays. Just reach out, and if you need a set of ears, I'm always
Hmm.
there for you. Okay? Thank you for your continued support. You guys are amazing. Anthony, always an absolute pleasure. My friend, have yourself a great week. We'll be in touch in the group
And guess
chat.
what? I will be here Friday. I'll tell you right now, it's Monday. I will be here for the pregame show on Friday.
There
Book
we
it.
go. There we go. And we'll see who else we can get out. We brought back Lex yesterday.
Woohoo.
That was great to see her come back around. So
Hmm.
we'll see. We'll see who else will join us. But you guys take care. All right. Fantastic as always. Drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel. No matter what, it's like Ryan says, fino alla fine, forza Juve. And let everybody else talk. It's always going to be amici di nessuno. Okay. But in the end, doesn't really matter, okay? They hate us because they ain't us. And they're frustrated, more frustrated because they're supposed to be the talk of the town, all this hype and whatnot. But even when we don't have our best squad out, they can't get the job done against us, all right? It's always
That's a
going to
shame.
be in our hands. It's always going to be in our hands. Bring me some Ardzic, goddammit. Fino alla fine. Forza Juve. Ciao tutti. Take care.
Yeah.